All right, welcome to Freezin for NFC North Podcast, episode 9. We have concluded the 2021 season for at least 3 of the teams, and we are on to the NFL 2021 Wild Card Week. And we once again are joined by the Queen of the North, Danielle. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
And I'm here. I'm here, and we are joined by Cooper, Uneducated Takes.
Hello.
And Gridiron Grubb.
Hello.
And we are ready to get into it. You know, obviously there's a lot to unpack this episode. We even have like a special guest coming up soon. But really, the one thing that I wanted to start with, and I think we're all interested and excited about, is Danielle. You had a chance to go on the AJ Dillon show. Talk a little bit about kind of that experience. You had some awesome questions. What was, AJ Dillon's responses to your questions, especially the thirsty comments?
Well, he just recently started his own podcast. So I had asked him if he could have anybody in the whole world on his show, who it would be. And he picked Kanye West. And
I saw that. That was great.
Yeah.
And I told him just to get Antonio Brown, because it was pretty much the same thing. The Kanye.
Is he old enough for Kanye West? I feel like he's too young for Kanye West, and that really makes me feel old saying it.
Well, I'm almost 36. I think AJ Dillon's about 28 or so, something about
what?
I think 20 to
29.
29.
Oh,
yeah.
he was like a 4-year starter, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, Boston College. He probably was.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. Okay. No, he's old enough.
And yeah, I don't know if you saw last week, almost a week ago, last Thursday, this big, huge movement on Packers Twitter, the Thirsty Thursday thirst trap. Did you see any of that?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I guess some troll on Twitter was insulting women Packer fans and calling them wannabe thirst traps or whatever.
Oh,
and
that's
so all
where
the
it
women
came.
were
Okay.
like, yeah, and so all the women were like, you want to see thirst trap? We'll show you, and it blew up from there. And
It did.
someone had tweeted a pic, like a collage of Randall Cobb, Aaron Rodgers, Clay Matthews, and David Bakhtiari, all with their shirts off. They're like, oh, Thirsty Thursday with all of them in the picture. And then David Bakhtiari ended up retweeting that fan's collage. And so like Aaron and everybody, it reached the whole locker room. Like it was just this big thing. So I asked AJ who the biggest thirst trap is on the team. That was one of my questions. He picked Kylan Hill and Alan Lazard.
How is it not the coach? How is it not that sexy coach at the end?
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I never even thought of that. Like that generally
Yeah.
would have been the first thought in my head, because I love him very much.
Yeah.
But
It's a strong beard game for sure.
We've been given so much love here lately to Aaron Rodgers as fans who probably shouldn't be doing that from the 3 boxes over here. But
I feel dirty.
I'm glad that it wasn't Thirsty Thursday for Aaron's chugging.
No, it's not. Yeah. Oh yeah, mildly parched Thursday.
Well, yeah, I mean, that had to be an amazing experience.
It was very exciting. I had so much adrenaline afterwards. It was one of the coolest things I've probably ever ever have done. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. And he's super cool. He's very laid back and humble and very cool.
And where can they find that? Where can they find that episode?
You just go to YouTube and type in Carry the G with AJ Dillon. Right. It's Cheesehead TV, that channel. Big time. They just all show up right there, all the episodes, but the one I did was week 18.
All right.
Perfect. Yes. Everyone check that out. Definitely. It's worth
it. It's hilarious. The whole thing. He's super funny.
Good.
The whole thing is really funny.
He's got a really good personality.
Yeah. It was good.
Even for the non-Packer fans.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
He mostly talked about video games.
Going and watching Cheesehead TV. I don't know how many of us non-Packer fans there'll be.
Well, I won't subscribe, but I might hit like.
You just sit on the outside and wish we, that's what I do with the Bears. I kind of wish we had, what the Packers have. And obviously there's, a lot to talk about this week. We do have a special guest. I'm going to bring him on now. Ace, how's it going?
Hey guys, I'm absolutely honored to be on the show. So thank you very much for that amazing intro. So thank you, buddy. Cheers.
Yeah, and so obviously we connected on Twitter and a few of us, we've talked about it. Obviously your stuff is hilarious. It's off the wall. It's exciting, right? So talk about like how you kind of got into doing that, and then we're going to get into kind of reviewing this week. Obviously there's a lot with NFC North, but talk about how you kind of got into doing that.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. So in 2007, I was lucky enough to play soccer in Santa Barbara City College. And then I went to watch a football game. And then after the first hit, when the tight end got hit, I was like, is he going to get up? Is he all right? And I just think since then, I just fell in love with the game. Obviously, I'm a huge hip-hop fan as well. And I've just always been a closet American fan, I guess, just a big WWE fan. Again, massive hip-hop fan, so it just evolved from there. I was a coach at a high level, so tactically, again, the NFL is just the best game in the world, right? Just tactically, we've got now some of the most athletic males in the world just playing this game. I think something like in 1996, most of the fastest men went to your track team. Now they're all playing in the NFL. So it's just, I think the game's evolved so much in the last 10 or 15 years, probably more so than it did in the last 50. So, I mean, that's where I'll start. So the red zone come about really just obviously my love for the game now over 10 or 15 years. And I just thought I need to get on there really and just try and create the next sports show. I'm a bit sick and tired how obviously the UK perception, as soon as people hear my accent, they might be turned off straight away and think he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I'm trying to do it for the guys who sort of really support and love the game, who just sort of keep it chilled on a level, but we sort of feel it like you guys do. And that's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to come on today, just to talk with some hardcore NFL fans and some obviously pure Americans.
Absolutely. And anyone who's turned off by a British accent, by the way, does not know what's good. Yeah, that's awesome. So you do videos, you do a commentary on Red Zone.
Correct. Just basically I started just 6-7 weeks ago, just experimenting really just to see if I had some type of pop. Getting ready for 2022 is the main goal. But it went way more better than I expected. Like it's done about 12,000 views the last 5 episodes. So I was just over the moon with that, brother, to be fair. And most of my audience is American, so I was over the moon with that as well.
So, kind of getting into this, obviously from an, outside NFC North, I believe you're a 49ers fan.
Yeah, correct. I'm also a huge just Joe Burrow fan as well. In particular, I would say I'm a huge fan of the league. Obviously, covering Red Zone, I get to see a wide variety of teams. I'll be able to cover most things we've got going on here. I'm hoping I do your show justice, brother.
Yeah, and kind of from an outside perspective, give maybe a review of each of our teams, and then we can kind of go into week 18.
Always roasting us.
Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. Who would you like me to start with, brother, in particular?
We might as well start with the Lions.
Yeah.
None of us want to say it.
That's fine. No, that's fine. I just want to shout out Mr. Grubb, by the way, because he was the one who enabled me also to get on this show. So thank you, brother, for
I love what you're doing, man.
Yeah, he's a real one. He's a real one.
He's a real one, to be fair. So, with the Detroit Lions, obviously, Motor City Dan Campbell at the start of the season. I don't know if optimism was quite high in the building. His passion was definitely running high. So the Detroit Lions, but obviously I think they've definitely played for him this season, don't you think, guys? I think they've hung in sort of every single game. They've managed to stay very gritty, determined, and I think when you look at player performance in the NFL, they are definitely not throwing it in each week. Do you know what I mean? They're giving their best. to what they have down there. Hopefully they have a successful draft and they get a few more pieces. I thought Penei Sewell was a great find. Obviously, I thought the Bengals were going to take him, but obviously we all know how that worked out.
Yeah, that debate.
Yeah, that debate. Obviously, with having Jared Goff at quarterback, a huge problem. If I'm being honest, obviously, if you make the Lions one-dimensional, obviously, I think DeAndre Swift is a terrific back. But if you make them one-dimensional and you take that run game away and you put the pressure on Goff, then I think that's where the Lions have really struggled this season.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. I mean, they struggle in the, and we've talked about that all season, actually, here on the cast since we started with it, about them being that way. And so that's pretty spot on, man. I was ready for a little trash talk, but
no, well,
they're the feel-good story.
You got to be nice to the Lions, right? You got to be nice to the Lions.
Do you know what it is? It's just it's just an appreciation of the league. I'm not somebody who really just like batters pro athletes. Obviously, I respect that. Most of 99.9% of them are giving their all for the teams, and I think there's such huge following in America, and the pressure's on them. So I just think they give their all, man. So the Detroit Lions, they did well for the coach, but hopefully they improve in the draft.
Awesome. Yeah, do me next. Do the Vikings. Do me next.
Vikings, really? Honestly, again, just thank you for having me on, man. I've watched a few of your shows, and again, I ain't got to do you next, brother. You do a great job yourself, man. Mike Zimmer and the Vikings, again, just I think defensively, schematically, they can cause some teams problems. I remember catching Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show about 6-7 weeks ago, and he went through like how exotic their schemes can be at times. And I found that really interesting. So then I started watching more film on the Vikings, and I thought defensively, like they've got a team, and then obviously Dalvin Cook's a huge play in the running game. Just absolutely smashes it when he's on the field. They've got good backs in the depth chart, but again, offensively, when it comes down to Kirk Cousins, I mean, what do you think, brother? Sometimes I think the play action game's not too heavily connected with the passing game, and that's a problem for them. I think if they manage to blend that together a bit more, the Vikings might be cooking. What do you think?
Yeah, and that's a pretty astute point because Kirk Cousins is maybe top 3 in the league out of play action, and they hired a really young, inexperienced offensive coordinator this year. And it's one thing to be young and inexperienced, and it's another thing to be young and inexperienced with Mike Zimmer yelling into your headset to run the ball all day. So the play action game kind of fell out. The Vikings went more for like more of a short game, get the ball out quick. And the play action rate was honestly just disappointingly low this year. And that was kind of a topic among on the Twitter sphere a little bit about the play action. So that's right on. And Kirk Cousins didn't quite get it done. To be honest, that defensive scheme didn't quite get it done either. I mean, Mike Zimmer's he's never done the same blitz twice. That's what I say.
Yeah,
so
true.
It's good on third down, good in the red zone, good when you have a passing situation. But there's only so many times you can go into that bag during a game. And if you're getting torched on first and second down, then what's the difference? And a lot of that has to do with his personnel. But yeah, that was pretty dang close right there. You did watch. You have been watching a little bit of film.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, I think I'm ready. I'm ready for the Bears.
Well, okay.
Save the best for last.
So yeah, I was going to congratulations on all your success, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, Chicago Bears again. Chicago, obviously a huge sports city in general. Obviously, with the success of the Bulls back in the 90s, and obviously a huge baseball following, football following is massive. Whenever there's a story in Chicago, it's a big deal, right? The fans are very passionate there. So immediately the pressure was on Matt Nagy, and I think, if I'm being totally honest, I think they've wasted a season in developing Justin Fields because I think now we're going to go into the start of the 2022 season. Fields is going to play, and then if there's a lot of teething problems, I think they could have been sorted out this year. Knowing if it was going to be a rebuild season, we should have maybe sacrificed some losses along the way, and I think bled Justin Fields in a lot earlier. I think he showed with his mobility and stuff. If you could develop an offensive scheme around him, put the right packages in play, help the guy out a little bit. It's no good running an Andy Dalton offense through Justin Fields, right?
Yeah.
So
even worse than Andy Dalton offense. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think, it's setting the guy up to fail like almost straight away. So I think, again, the total mismanagement and dysfunction right from the off bled into their season. And it really ruined what they got going there, because they've got some great pieces in Montgomery and Robinson and Mooney. They've got some great players there. So again, offensively, I think they've got great potential.
Yeah.
Defensively, obviously Khalil Mack, I know he's been a lot injury prone this season. What do you think there? Do you think it's time for a change, or what do you think, brother?
Oh, with Khalil Mack, that defense is going to be interesting. I mean, Akeem Hicks is not going to be back, and he kind of mailed it in. He did mail it in, not only on the field, but in some different interviews and things like that. And so he'll be gone. It's going to be interesting. Mack is, the question is he on the downturn or not?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he wasn't healthy, but yeah, that's going to be a huge thing. But you're right on with all of that with, wasted it from the beginning. I mean, it was even in training camp, not giving any reps to Fields in the training camp, and that it was kind of a wasted season, because then you weren't able to see that development, and obviously that's what led to him being shown the door. But it's going to be an interesting off season.
Yeah, I totally agree. Who do you think they're going to get in as head coach?
There.
we've got a list coming up, and we can talk about that a little bit. But I definitely want them to get a coach, that's more offensive minded, because you really need someone. As I talk about having that continuity, you can't, even if you get a defensive coordinator that has a good, offensive, coordinator or defensive coach with a good offense coordinator, then what if they do well and then move on? You need to have that continuity. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the champions of the North, what do you think of those Packers, especially being a 49ers fan?
Again, trying to keep it impartial and, trying to call it exactly how it is. The superstar that he is, Aaron Rodgers, with all the controversy that was going on in the offseason. I think shout out to Matt LaFleur, keeping everything calm in the building. This seems like these players have just, by the first game when they got blew out by New Orleans, we all know that was just a hiccup now. Credit to Matt LaFleur again, just keeping the squad healthy, focused, determined. It just seems like they just picked off from where they've been last season. Obviously, he's done incredibly well the last 3 seasons now with his record. I think he's very underrated. When it comes to their offense, again, I'm a big fan of the run game, because you see a lot of Tampa 2 coming back now to stop the passing offense. So now there's more emphasis on the run game. So I think in the draft and coming up now, we might see a new emphasis on running backs. So when we look at Green Bay, I mean, they've got 2 amazing ones. So I think that when it comes to complementary football and playing with a good balance, Aaron Rodgers is showing good patience. He's not scared to hand the ball off. He does it plenty of times. He does take the easy reads when they're there. But of course, we're talking about one of the GOATs, and he makes absolutely amazing plays, literally jaw-dropping plays every single week. I mean, he squeezes the ball into tight windows. When obviously he always puts his team in the right plays. We all know how much he finds Devontae Adams and how easy he makes it look. How easy he makes it look. I just think he's amazing, obviously, and their offense is really potent. Defensively, is Alexander back? I'm not sure. But they've got a young rookie in at corner, haven't they? Who I think's had an amazing season as well.
Yeah. Russell Douglas, right?
Yeah, and that's been a theme. That's been a theme this year for them.
That's been a great theme for them. They've been great. They've been great in the secondary.
Yeah.
I think, again, maybe not. I'm not sure where they are in terms of statistically, but I just think when it comes to situational football, Green Bay seem to make all the right plays at the right times. They'll stop you on 3rd down. They'll score in the red zone. They'll kick field goals when they need to. So, huge fan. They're going to be a big threat, and maybe with home field advantage, they'll go all the way.
Was that a subtle dig? Kick field goals when they need to, and it's the championship game.
Sometimes they do.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Sometimes I said sometimes they do, but they've been missing a lot of them this year. The field goals.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Jair is most likely supposed to be back for the playoffs.
Nice.
He's been practicing. We're getting Zadarius Smith back.
Oof.
Amazing.
Yep.
There it is,
David
the path is
Bakhtiari's
clear.
back.
Oh man.
Everybody is, I think, pretty much coming back except for the torn ACLs, obviously, the ones that are out for the season. But everybody that went down at the beginning of the year, for the most part, they're all coming back for the playoffs.
So again, they're in great form and they're getting more healthier. So watch out, Green Bay. Watch out.
Yeah, this could be the time they break through.
Absolutely.
Third time's a charm.
There you go.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, talking of teams that didn't break through this year, obviously we can just kind of review week 18. Bears, Vikings, Packers, Lions. Where do we want to start, crew?
Let's go with the Packers Lions.
That's kind of the least exciting. Yeah.
I mean, well, least exciting. We won.
Locked up the draft pick, and
it's a great preseason game.
Here's the deal. Again, future looks good in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
We're about the future here right now. Mm-hmm. The Lions look good. If I'm a Packers fan, I'm praying Aaron Rodgers doesn't leave, because Jordan Love is it's gonna be a long time if he does develop. I mean, it really is. He can make some plays, but he doesn't. When you go from Aaron Rodgers to what he's got going on, I think they should be a little worried. So I was a little happy as a Lions fan with the win, and kind of seeing. I don't know if they've got what they need there if Aaron bounces out.
To be fair, 2 points on that. One, Aaron Rodgers looked pretty bad too when he first started. And I remember that Dallas game in particular, when it was like, oh yeah, I remember celebrating watching it. Oh man.
But there was times he came in for Brett Favre. I mean, and he tore it up. That's the famous thing. So
that Lions defense has made a really good quarterbacks look bad this year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm not taking away from it.
But you're right. No, you're right.
But they kept the starting receivers out there. And obviously they brought Bakhtiari and all these guys were out there getting some practice reps. And so, of course the Packers weren't in, full form or any of those things. But for a while, Love got out there with quite a bit of the starters. Yeah. And that's where I thought it looked bad. When everything else kind of, and the Lions, it just kind of didn't look good when he was with the starters, in my opinion. But again, it was one of those games where we talked about this last week. The Lions, I said, this is going to be a game that's going to come down to who do the Packers play in the second half, right? And that's how it worked. I mean, that's how it worked. Halftime, again, they did their exhibition game. They played the first half. And everybody went to the locker room, and half the guys that were starters, came out without pads, so, it's just one of those preseason games. And, we knew this could turn into what we talked to last week about that, depending on who's on the field for the Packers in the second half, the Lions probably had a really good chance to win this game. And that's the way that it broke down. It was the same thing. I just saw, again, like I say, what Campbell has done here to get these guys. This was week 16 or week 16. I'm so used to saying all these, 16 games, but this is week 18, and they didn't have the Lions could have said, forget it. They could have racked it up, gone home, but they went out with a win, and they were dancing on the sideline, and they were playing with pride to the very end of week 18, not even having a chance at the playoffs. But it was just a great team chemistry for them.
Yeah, when I look at obviously the future, I mean, you do have a lot of good young pieces with the Lions. Just get back to kind of the Jordan Love stuff, and maybe coming up in the future shows, we can kind of, hopefully eventually be able to poke fun at the Packers. But I'm going to say his new nickname. Yeah, I'm going to say Jordan's new nickname. He's not Jordan Love. He's Jordan Like. So.
That is good. That is cool.
It's not bad at all.
So you heard it here first, I guess. But
there we go.
I say every show that Aaron's coming back. So
Yeah,
know-
he
Don't
is
hold your
probably
breath.
coming back.
We
He's
know,
probably
but-
coming back.
but-
Yeah.
But for how long? Like how many?
Yeah.
They better hope it lasts at least 2 years because, like I say, there's not going to be they might get lucky this year. See, to me, this would be the year again to draft a quarterback at the end of the first round.
Yes.
So this could
Yes.
actually be the year the Packers actually get the real guy. I know Jordan Love, I got it, but I think there are some guys that could go at the end of this first round that are going to develop, and that could be a Packers pick if they really wanted to, and maybe even late second round. You got to look at a Russell Wilson who went third round. There's going to be a couple of those quarterbacks that are sneaky there this year that they could actually maybe come away with a Dak Prescott.
And everyone wants to say, everyone wants to say weak quarterback draft or whatever, but I hate that. Last week quarterback draft had Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson in it, so I don't want to hear none of that. Yeah,
How savage would that
even
be?
Mac Jones, we've talked about that on this show. He now, did he go to the right system in New England? Yes, but again, here was this guy that was everybody's like they poo-pooed him this year until he went to the Patriots. They were like, I don't know, he might be a first-round pick. First, they thought that the 49ers are trading up for him. That's going to happen this year too. There's going to be all those things going on. These quarterbacks are going to come out of the combines, and they're going to come out of this, especially the Senior Bowls, that happen here over the next couple of weeks. They're going to come out, and these guys are going to. There'll be some quarterbacks that sneak up the board, and all the things that happen with.
Draft season! It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Lions who will be coaching. Coaching staff will be in
correct.
that game.
Big time!
Lions.
That's a huge
Jets.
thing. That's a huge thing. You get some sneaky picks that you find in there.
Yeah.
And they basically stole Amon-Ra this year.
Yeah.
And that it's a huge steal where they got that guy at, and they're going to have some opportunities this year. Now you get in that game and you're coaching the Senior Bowl like that, you get to see the inside of some of these guys. And know if you want them or don't want them, or should they be your first overall pick, or should there's a lot of things that you get from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so kind of a little bit more kind of review of the Bears and Packers game. I was at that game.
The Vikings.
Oh, sorry, Packers are on the brain. Bears and the Vikings. Unfortunately,
when you're in the NFC North, you can't get the Packers off your brain. That's
they haunt your dreams.
They do. Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. He's scary. That Bears at Vikings.
Sorry,
they actually made it. They made it snow inside the. I almost said the Metrodome, but no, they made it snow inside of the stadium. It was just an interesting game. I don't know, kind of Cooper, what you saw, but it was almost the Bears kind of got the hopes up. Defense was playing well. Cousins wasn't doing anything, and then it just kind of turned.
That was the late season win that the Vikings needed against the Bears every single year except this year. So of course we got it. I thought it was a very nice send off for Mike Zimmer, who didn't necessarily deserve it with his attitude of late. But I thought that was a great defense show up, give me a pick six, couple interceptions, just flummox a quarterback. You know what I mean? That was a Zimmer game through and through. First half was, I've been checked out since the Lions week, to be honest. So I watched this from a out of body perspective where I'm no longer a fan. I'm just kind of trying to have fun. And I was like, oh yeah, here we go. This is going to be like it's gone every year with the late season game against the Bears, where it's this would have been a winnable game if you pulled yourself together a little bit, but no, Vikings came up big in the second half. Counts as a fourth quarter comeback, by the way. I believe the Bears are actually up in the fourth quarter. So there you go.
This is correct.
Cousins haters. He's got another one.
It was definitely all on his shoulders.
Oh man, huge.
All on his shoulders.
I know the pressure was immense, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was on him.
Patrick Peterson had a questionable interception. It looked like it was kind of pass interference, but
I agree.
It was what they weren't going to call that, and when you're doing Ace, when you're doing
it depends what week and what game.
Exactly,
that's true. Ace, when you're doing red zone calls, do you get crazy with interceptions?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah,
I get crazy. Just anything high energy and stuff like that. I just think because I'm just feeling every minute of it. or I'm trying to do so much at one time. I just think naturally the energy and the passion comes with it. But for me, one of the best things in football is a pick six.
Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously it just steals the momentum. It's just such a big game swinger at the right time, at the right moment. There's nothing better than a pick six. So interceptions, they're a big deal on the red zone, on my red zone, for sure.
Yeah, I tell you what, I mean, it definitely, I mean, it was interesting being at the game because there were, Vikings fans that were cheering for the Bears for a better draft pick that were sitting behind us. And it was kind of, it was funny going back and forth. Of course, I think I told you guys online, or maybe I told Danielle that there was, the person wearing the Packer, sweatshirt, and they kept showing him on the Jumbotron and everyone just kept booing and But as soon as he had that pick six, it was like, that's when I'm like, okay, yep, I got it, and we're leaving because we were nosebleed, seats, and I was thankful it was inside, but it was definitely just a historic game for the send off of two regimes.
Oh yeah, jettisoning two long-time regimes. Yeah. If you want to transition into that, because it was a fine game. It was pretty much a preseason game, right? It's always good to get the win. I'm glad Zim got it, but if we want to start talking about regime changes, might be a good time now.
Absolutely. And so I've kind of, looking at some head coaching options with the Bears, they're all over the interviews, and I don't know if we're going to have time for my rant this week or not, but, I was just, floored with, they came out in Bears, radio people, they're just, hammering just the whole, how that was dealt with from ownership, who's the family, basically, saying that they were going to do this and that, and they were going to make major changes, but they're really not. So there was optimism, the start of the day when they fired Matt Nagy, knew it was coming. And then they fired Pace, knew that was coming. There was optimism, then there wasn't because of just what was said in this press conference, by Bears management, and George McCaskey, and so there wasn't as much hope there. And then now, kind of looking at some names, there's a little bit more hope. As far as Bears, they've got Doug Peterson, Brian Flores. I'm excited for Nathaniel Hackett. I would love to steal him from the Packers.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
does he call plays?
Yeah, Danielle, has he been calling? Has Nathaniel Hackett been calling plays for the Packers?
I don't know. Honestly,
yeah.
I'm not sure.
I always thought it was LaFleur, but no, it might actually.
Yeah, I mean, on that list. Go ahead.
I would go with. I think it's LaFleur. That's what I would go with. That's what it seems like. But
yeah.
I'm not sure.
But on that list and of those coaches, if I'm the Bears, again, I've talked about this before in past weeks. We talked about it together with having Fields there, having a young quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
A guy like Byron Leftwich, who's done really well, and I know he has Tom Brady, but he's learned a lot and he's come a long way in his coaching, and I think he had, because he was a great quarterback for what he did. Mm-hmm. He was a strong-hearted quarterback, and I don't know if you guys ever remember him playing in a game at Marshall in college.
Yep.
And he basically broke his leg and threw a pass down the field with there was 30 seconds, and his receiver caught it, and they didn't have any timeouts, and he had to run down the field with a broken leg, and then threw a touchdown pass to win the game, to finish off his career in college. So he's got this magic, and I like him. Mm-hmm. And I just think the Bears, where they're going, they can bring in, there's so many going to be really good defensive coordinators this year and defensive coaches. I think developing that offense with a really good coach, Brian Dable, going to be really good. And, again, we don't know what Nathaniel Hackett, but again, he's been around a superstar talent like Rodgers. Mm-hmm. What does he bring? So.
Oh, you're muted, Cooper.
I am muted. That's a good thing. My dog's been making weird noises. So you're looking for Hackett number one on your list as of right now.
No. So they do have an interview with Hackett. I would like that because of the Green Bay connection. Obviously, I think
Gotcha.
he's got some history, family history as well. So that would be good. I really listening to Chicago radio. I do, and I don't know if they've got an interview scheduled with Leftwich yet, but I do like Leftwich.
Leftwich is a good choice.
And on Chicago radio today, they talked about how he's been adaptable with his offense and he's learned on the fly, learned to listen to his quarterback. And that is exactly the opposite of what Nagy did this year. He would not,
right.
he had
ego.
Exactly. He had his view and he was not going to change it. And when you have like someone who's done it before, and Grubb, I remember that in college, his lineman actually carried him.
Yeah, his lineman had to carry him.
Actually, no, I remember that now too.
Yeah,
I didn't know
it was
that.
amazing.
And his lineman had to carry him.
And so I would love that pick. I just, I have this sneaky, suspicion that they're just going to screw this up, just the way, because they've got a general manager, but basically what happened in the interview of George McCaskey, the chairman of the board, he said that the general manager was going to be reporting directly to him. So it's not necessarily, it's the traditional general manager role. It's just, and then what happened is, in the interview, George McCaskey, who's making these decisions on the, on the GM and coach, he said that he wasn't a football guy. He was just a fan. And he was getting just roasted on that. It was
and honestly, that's
horrible.
Fine. But if you're going to be a fan, you don't put yourself as the decision maker,
exactly.
Right? The Wilfs are fans. The owners of the Vikings are fans, but they're like, yeah, we're fans. We're going to let the football people make the choice. We're going to watch,
that's what I'm scared of.
Man.
When you talk of different choices, is there, a coach that, maybe for the Vikings then that you're kind of looking at?
Nope,
Cooper?
not yet. There's a couple. I would be fine. It depends on what we want to do at quarterback, right? So if we're gonna keep Cousins, I would like a Doug Peterson or maybe a Brian Dabble or something like that. Leftwich would be a great choice as well. But I'm not really thinking about that right now. There's a kind of coach that I want, and just getting out from under Zimmer, who had a really great career, but really soured it at the end. The more I thought on it a lot this week, and I remember Mike Zimmer saying in 2016 that he was going to fight Fisher, the defensive coordinator for the Rams, in the street, right? And like a fiery man, and his defense was good. And he's like, yeah, if it was in the streets, it would have been a fist fight. And you really believed him, because and he's just like throwing quarterbacks under the bus. And it's funny because, your defense is so good. But towards the end, it just got so toxic. And there's something I actually want to read here, because a lot of people talk about players coaches and everyone wants a players coach. And I'm of the opinion that all the good coaches, for the most part, have been players coaches throughout history, right? There's a few notable exceptions, kind of like a Bill Belichick almost, but that's he's the exception to everything, right? Yeah. Even like a Bill Parcells, who is Mike Zimmer's mentor, would ride him into the ground. He was a red ass, right? But you talk to players and he'd put his arm around him, right? Afterwards, and he was there for them on an emotional level. And I want to read this from a player, Eric Kendricks, on the Minnesota Vikings. And for context on this, Eric Kendricks is one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, multi-time All-Pro, not a whiner, not someone who's going to get in his feelings. He never talks like this. I've never heard. And that's why I want to read this whole quote. And he is one of Zimmer's prize toys. And this is what he had to say about Zimmer on the way out. Right? I'm going to read the whole thing, right? So, a culture where communication is put at the forefront. No matter what your role is on the staff, you have a voice, and being able to communicate things you think could facilitate wins. I think just having that voice, no matter how big your role is important to listen up and take each other's opinions into account. I don't think a fear-based organization is the way to go. And he followed that up with, when talked about his relationship with Zimmer, he's like, there's a lot of things left on the table. I don't really know where we stand. You'll have to ask him. Right. And I understand, Zimmer is he's a hard ass old school coach. Right. But if you're a defensive hard nosed guy and your all pro linebacker has that to say about you when you leave, you're not a good coach anymore. Right? You've jumped the shark at that point. Well, yeah, when Eric Kendricks has that to say about you on the way out. So I just want a coach who's gonna. And I know the Wilfs in their statement they mentioned collaboration like 17 times. It was pretty.
Don't the Bears did that? Don't use that word.
Then you better hope that it's not Brian Flores either of those teams.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it will.
Yeah.
Be. I don't think it will be, and I'm not interested because I do not want a dictator. And Spielman, who I applaud them because I thought I called it on this show. I thought they were going to kick Spielman upstairs to the hashtag Elway rule. But that's stupid. What, are you just going to neuter your GM and then he's just going to be standing over the shoulder of the new one? No, that's terrible. No, they fired him. Good. They were both dictators. They both made all the choices. They were both brilliant in their own way, but that is not the way to succeed on an organizational level. So I am just looking, I don't even know what I'm looking for right now, but I just feel relief. Is about the whole situation, right? And you could tell that the relief is palpable in the building, right? Everyone feels relief. They're out from under a thumb, right? So I'm just glad. I hope we continue. I'm just looking for good vibes going forward. That's silly. It's football, right? It's a violent sport, but vibes matter. I'm looking for good vibes going forward in the locker room at an organizational level because there's a lot of smart people in that building, a lot of really good football players in that locker room, and there's been really mediocre results because not everyone's being hurt, I think.
Yeah. Grubb, talk about, obviously, been a Dolphins fan as well. Actually, first and foremost, Brian Flores.
I'm just the Lions guy for here.
You are, yeah. So,
we couldn't find a fan, so yeah.
so yeah, you're not a fan of Flores then?
Well, I'm a fan of what he did coaching wise. Great, he did great coaching, and there's been reports. Don't get me wrong. Being ahead, this is what we've talked about this I said about 3 or 4 weeks ago when we were talking about coaches and we were talking about, especially Vikings and Bears, how the guys quit on them. There's a difference in these coaches who you can coach. I mean, Zimmer's a great coach, and Matt Nagy when he was a great coach, he was coaching players. They had great offenses where he came from. Same thing with Zimmer. Zimmer's defense in Cincinnati was amazing. Right. So, these guys, they were good coaches, but Flores, good coach. But the more the reports come out of Miami, to me, the worse it looks for him as far as personnel wise. Right. Yeah. Did the guys play for him on the field? Were they pumped up, especially defense? Right. He's a defensive guy. All the defensive players seem to like him, but you don't hear any offensive guys saying anything. And by the way, why do you now you start to look at why like maybe a guy like Kirkpatrick and some of these guys didn't want to be a part of this team and didn't want to deal with this guy. And there's been arguments with Tua on the sidelines. Anybody who was offense, there seems to be an issue. And they ran a lot of guys. He brought in a lot of his guys and then ran them all out of town. So there's just a lot of reports coming in, and if for me, if I'm like a Bears fan, especially, what the reports are coming out with the way he treated a young quarterback like Tua, I would fear as a Bears fan, what's he going to do to Fields? What if their relationship is like Tua and Flores, right? So again, even if we went to the Vikings, a Kirk Cousins type attitude, well, how's that going to fit?
It'll be the same way. I do my job, you do yours, because that's the relationship
but eventually they start to beat each other's throats.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that is a good thing either. That's the same relationship he had with Zimmer, which was I do my job, you do yours, and it's like, is that how you win in the NFL? Do you just punch that clock? I don't think so.
So seeing Flores, I appreciate him.
He's a good coach.
He did a great job with the talent that was there for a few years, and it doesn't mean he's a bad coach. What happened was. And we've all been in office environments. Sometimes the best sales guy, like I worked selling furniture like 15 years ago, right? One of our best sales guys, he got fired because he was one of the biggest jerks you've ever dealt with, right? But as a team, you don't want to do that because you're like, hey, this guy's bringing in, the wins. He's got some of the teams on his back. But when it becomes a cancer in the locker room, and the big thing is the Deshaun Watson thing. And that's, again, if he goes to the Bears, how does that play out? Does that same story play out there with Justin Fields? So to me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to touch that guy right now. Maybe a few years down the road. But this year, I would, if I have a young quarterback, he wouldn't be the guy I want after seeing this. What's kind of now playing out. It was a shock on Monday, obviously, to the NFL world. But the more you hear reports, and I'm not a big Stephen Ross fan, the owner, but at the same time, again, none of us are in these buildings. None of us are around this. In Miami, there was reports months ago. And everybody poo-pooed these reports because they're like, that's crazy. That won't happen. He's on a 5-game winning streak. But you could see this starting to churn up. And as more and more stories and reports come out, and that's what I say, I would fear that if I'm a Chicago Bear and I have a young quarterback like Fields. And then again, if a Viking, you're basically getting the same attitude that Zimmer's coached with for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And so
they need someone to embrace the quirkiness of Kirk if they're going to keep him, which they just shouldn't, but it's okay.
So I'm actually getting some breaking news here. It is actually confirmed. The Bears will probably hire Brian Flores.
Got him.
And don't get me wrong. Now that's a team. That's a town and a team and a defense and all these things.
They win more games with him as their coach this year. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Not long term though.
But again, I fear does Fields step into the Tua situation?
Absolutely.
Because Tua Tagovailoa, everybody can say what they want now. He's in the NFL. He literally, it was tank for Tua for like 18 months.
Yeah.
Yep.
How do we get this guy? And then all of a sudden he got to the NFL. Oh, he sucks. Well, there's been no development of him, and that's what worries me. I guess again, if you're a young quarterback, a team with a young quarterback, there's been no development of Tua in Miami. They had a dual. He couldn't make up his mind who he wanted to be as offensive coordinator this year. Yeah. So we had dual offensive coordinators. Explain how that works. So to me, the coach, it wasn't that he wasn't a good coach as far as especially the defensive schemes, but if you can't even make a decision on who's going to be your offensive coordinator, then I have problems with that. I had problems from the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe not the coach for any of our teams, but I suppose we'll find out soon.
My newly adopted team in the Lions.
Yeah, good for the Lions. Maybe.
Has the coach I always actually wanted as a Dolphins fan when he became the interim coach, and they won like 3 games in a row with him.
Yeah,
and they were down and out, had nothing to play for, and so I've seen this coming from Dan Campbell for a long time, and I wish that they would have they wanted to, but again, we don't have a really smart owner. And but now he's on my newly adopted love of my life, Lions. And I mean,
well, speaking of Brian Flores, we have JD of the Drippy Network saying hi. So, and just wanted to,
what's up, JD?
He says he likes Brian Flores, although here is a caveat here. He is an Eagles guy, so there you go.
It's unfortunate. Okay.
Well, again, I would love Flores to be my defensive coordinator. If I'm the Bears or I'm the Vikings, come be my defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But I don't want him as my head coach. I'm just saying, to run the building. He to me, what's happened in this situation is he proved the building he was running. We've had, again, you could have Fitzpatrick that's now at the Steelers, this like superstar safety was the Dolphins. He forced his way out because he didn't want to play for Flores, and he made that really clear from a rookie year at the beginning. He made that clear. He forced his way out early, and there's been a lot of reports of other players, and so I'm like, do I want him as my defensive coach? Hell yeah.
So this
same with him.
This is scary, you think of their interviewing, but kind of getting the coaches and obviously Ace, you being a 49ers guy, I feel like, everyone's kind of, tried to, for a while, copy the Shanahan stuff. Like,
absolutely.
But even from, some 49ers fans, I heard some, negativity on him with his doghouse and things like that. I mean, are teams going to try to copy that? I mean, that's what I worry about too.
Just to segue off what some of the guys were saying there, because all my background was coaching, so I was intrigued to what you was both saying there, and I think it's a very interesting difference between the Chicago Bears and what Minnesota have got going on there.
Yeah.
One job is all about trying to obviously get the best out of a young quarterback, and I think the other one is trying to develop the roster that they have there.
Yeah, rebuild a little bit.
Yeah, a rebuild a little bit.
So,
a little bit. So the intrapersonal skills, which I think Connor was alluding to, they're absolutely key. And I think if Brian Flores is too hard-nosed with a young quarterback, I think that's what Grubb's alluding to. It's gonna be a problem. So how you massage egos in the modern game, I think, is very important. Mm-hmm. So moving on to Shanahan, I think what he does very well, boss, is he manages to get the best out of his star players. So it seems like his offense is how do I get the ball in my best guy's hands? So if we've got no Kittle today, we're going to just run it through Debo. Even if the defense know what's coming, well, we're gonna run it with him on a speed option, or we're going to run it down the A gap, or we're going to get Samuel to throw a touchdown like he did the other day.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah, right? Samuel, man. So, oh my God.
So I think Shanahan is very aware that obviously, when you put your best offensive plays out on film, teams are obviously going to look at that. So I think, obviously, again, he's very aware of that. Yeah. I think they do well in light and heavy box situations. I think, obviously, there was a game about 3-4 weeks ago when we ran the ball. I think it was about 41, 42 times. Yeah. And there literally must have been about 10 million different ways he did that. So, again, I think the run game is something to be admired, which does get imitated across the league.
It's a work of art when Shanahan does it. It really is.
I totally agree. But I think, obviously, as well, it's personnel dependent. So teams may want to copy his style, but have they got the players to do it? And Debo Samuel, for me, is a one-off.
Oh yeah, maybe Cordero Patterson, but even then he's not Absolutely. As good. But not as good a receiver, honestly. Maybe as good a runner, but yeah, Debo is an insane weapon.
So I had that question about Eric Bieniemy as well. Obviously he was interviewing with the Vikings, or at least I think he was on some Vikings wish list or whatever. Whether I'm not sure it's yours, Cooper, but that was the question. They have the players that they have. You don't have all those players. I mean, he can do well, but how much is that on, obviously Patrick Mahomes running, Mahomes running around and the cheetah running around too. You don't have, a Tyreek Hill just, laying around. The Bears certainly don't have him, so so that is interesting. You talk about kind of, a Debo Samuel. I mean, having those players, those special players is important. But when you look at Shanahan, he's kind of known for the running. He's known. They were plugging in different people, and it is a
right.
And
it's about obviously a massive part of coaching. Obviously, is knowing your players and what they're good at, and can I design a scheme that benefits the best of my players, right? Mm-hmm. So I think Shanahan obviously has a great way of doing that, and then you're utilizing the strengths of, again, as we mentioned, Debo Samuel, or somebody like George Kittle, who's amazing in the blocking game. So you see a lot of block and releases, and you see a lot of our plays, even though our throws go in between the numbers. Again, there's about 50 million different ways he's doing that. So again, credit to how he knows Jimmy G's limitations, what he's good at and what he isn't. And again, that's all part of man management, isn't it? Like knowing what you're good at and then managing the game at the right times. And there's a lot of coaches I could criticize around the league, which I think in situational times, the play calling's awful. So let's see if Shanahan, obviously he's had a few times where, the Super Bowl and a couple of times at the Falcons where his play calling sometimes comes into question. So I think going into the playoffs, it's inevitable there's going to be a massive third down where all eyes will be on Kyle Shanahan, and we'll really see if he can deliver this time.
Yeah, and I think there's very little left to be desired from the play calling, but maybe the situational decisions like field goal, fourth down, where the shortcomings of Shanahan and where he was almost on the hot seat a little bit this year. Not really on the hot seat, but people were muttering about it a little bit. I don't think organizationally they would do that because, come on, you crazy? But is because he does lack a little bit of that interpersonal touch with his players. It is what it appears like from the outside. But masterful play caller and especially with pre-snap motion and just like the way
It's
the runs are
beautiful, man.
designed. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
look like
crazy.
anything else. I mean, a little bit, Sean McVay does a little bit of it, but it's just like the motion, how it all comes together and to draw the eye away. And then anyway, for a play calling perspective, he's my favorite play caller in the NFL. Just for aesthetics. But I don't know about interpersonally. He might need a little bit of
Dan
work.
Campbell's not up there from this year.
No, he's my favorite meme. He's my favorite meme coach in the NFL, and that's actually a very high. That's a high echelon.
That's a level.
Yeah.
I mean, he did so well. Look, they had to fire, Lynn. So
Anthony,
that was
Anthony
weird.
Lynn out. Campbell. Just
Not a very good play call.
amazing trickery. Well, did you see this weekend? Though? I don't know if you guys watch that. They must have
Yeah,
done
there's enough trick plays.
Yeah.
They probably did like 7 trick
They
plays
emptied the
during
book
the
out.
game.
I was
Even when the
freaking
backup
out.
for the Packers were in.
I forgot about that. Then people got mad about it.
How crazy is it? I mean, what bizarre world is it that the Lions, don't have to worry about coach this time of year?
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm saying. Like the Lions, and I know people don't see it coming. And we talked just a few minutes ago about me actually being a Dolphins fan. Let me tell you something. The very first Super Bowl that the Patriots made, I actually was kind of rooting for them during the game. They were like the bottom dwellers, then they would come up every once in a while over the years. Like, again, I'm 40, so I watched the Patriots be really stinky for, the Colts. They were in the NFC East, and the Patriots, they were like, they battled it out a lot of years to be the worst team in the division all the time. And then the Patriots would have these like magical kind of 2-year runs, and then that would fade off and they'd go back to – that's kind of like the Lions. And so right now the Lions, I'm like, hey, they actually could be that team that builds a future here. They could be. Again, we talk about Aaron Rodgers. We don't know if he's on his way out.
Yeah.
And we don't – either way, he's going to be on his way out soon. Aaron Rodgers isn't Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers, you can already tell, is not in love with the whole aspect of how an NFL season goes. He loves playing the game on the field, but he's tired of the offseason. He's getting tired of those things. And one day he's going to wake up and go, I've played enough. And if he wins a Super Bowl this year,
That might be it.
you just don't know. So the Lions have with what's going on in Bears world and Vikings world, especially Vikings world, like Bears world, I'm excited with Justin Fields.
Yeah. Oh, Vikings are on the edge of a knife. Oh, yeah.
And so but the Vikings are kind of on that teeter point, and the Packers, although they are good right now, are on a teeter point, and nobody sees it yet. And that's, again, as a Dolphins fan, we went with Shula for like 15 or 16 straight years. They didn't have a losing record.
Yeah.
And so as a Dolphins fan, you didn't see that you didn't really see the wobble, and then Marino started to leave, and Shula started, and then all of a sudden you went, oh my God, what happened?
Oh my God!
What happened? And I see that in Packers land, although they do have a good young coach.
And they have and we'll see how that coach performs once Rodgers is indeed gone. Speaking of the Dolphins, one last thing, because Drippy is just dropping hot fire. There it goes. The Dolphins are a dumpster fire. Players are soft now to a National Fluff League. Oh my God!
You gotta love Drippy. I love Drippy.
Yeah. No, I mean. Come on, if they were a dumpster, I mean, they're good. They're good. To me, I'm like, they got some of the best young talent in the NFL.
Yeah, in the NFL.
I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried about what's going on there. They got Holland at safety this year. Has stepped in and done great things. So again, people want to knock Tua, but Tua was the highest rated quarterback for about 9 straight weeks in the NFL.
Hey, I'm glad people knock him because I got him for a song in Dynasty League.
Yeah. So, I mean, statistically, they're good, but this to me, this is my show. This is about the Lions.
Yeah.
If I get into the Dolphins, I'll never shut the hell up.
Shut it up.
So, the Lions. I'm so. Obviously I started this podcast. I pay attention to all NFL. I have the podcast that I do, and it's all about everything NFL.
Where can we find that podcast?
You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Podcast.
It's a really good show.
Gridiron Grubb.
Gridiron Grubb is a really good show.
I love this, and I love that I got into the Lions with this. I love that you guys, we got this going together, but I've come to really appreciate as you look at the Lions and where they got their future going.
It's better than it's looked in a while.
It's better than the Bears. It's better,
and again,
honestly.
we never know. We never know. And going back to the Dolphins, 2 years ago, everybody was so excited about Flores because what he did with a garbage team and won 5 games. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know. We don't know what we're going to get out of Dan Campbell. Yeah, because those things can fall apart quickly. If you look at the Brian Flores situation, it was, and it's the NFL. What have you done for me lately? And it's like.
That's true.
And so it doesn't matter who you are, what coach you are, unless you're Bill Belichick. What have you done for me lately? It could happen to Shanahan and the 49ers. We've seen it happen even in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. We've seen multiple coaches come and go. Yeah. So you just don't know. Things run their course. And unless you're the Steelers organization that keeps coaches around and goes through, they understand that there's ups and downs in the NFL. And if you've got a steady coach, you keep him. But the rest of us, and our teams, and that's why the Vikings, but Zimmer did run his course.
8 years. 8 years. Spielman for 15, by the way. Spielman for 15.
Yeah. They ran their course, and they had their ups and they had their downs, but they never really had soaring ups.
No.
And when they did, they had field goal kickers miss field goals in the playoffs.
Hey, great this year,
10-yard field goal. I think I could kick that field goal.
Randy Moss kicked that field goal with the toe of his loafer. By the way, on TV, like the next day, he towed it with his fucking Sperry.
He towed it, I love that.
Anyway,
that's great.
Yeah, well, I gotta stop swearing.
Isaiah, this has been a great episode. I'm sure we could continue to go on and on.
Oh yeah, we've been going well.
Definitely appreciate you joining us, Ace. Where can everyone find you?
Just on YouTube, just the Ace Jordan Show. We'll be doing a playoff special this Sunday. I just want to say before we go, thank you very much. It's been an honor. What an amazing show with proper hardcore fans. Great host. Absolutely loved every minute. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. It's been awesome.
We enjoyed you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to tune into that this weekend, I think.
Fantastic. Come and join in the chat. I'd love to see you there. Come,
absolutely.
Great. Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us, Drip. He's got some, a lot of great stuff on NFL as well. So we got some fans out there, tuning in, and obviously we're going to keep this going throughout the playoffs. We're going to have, some Packers stuff next week. And,
matchups.
Because it's the playoffs, so none of us got anything going on.
No, but we got coaches, we got GMs. Oh man, don't even get me started on draft season. So I cannot wait for the mock drafts to start. We got a 4-man panel already here, 4-person panel already here, and so that's already a good start to a mock draft. Anyway,
all good stuff. Thanks again, guys. Once again, NFL Outdated. You can find me on Twitter.
Cooper. I go by Uneducated Takes on Twitter, and you can find me at the brand new Freezin 4 YouTube channel, as well as the podcast dropping soon, hopefully later this week.
Absolutely.
And I'm Gridiron Grubb, and you can find me obviously here with the Freezin 4 podcast. Much love and respect here, and you can find me at my own individual podcast, Gridiron Grubb, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and you can find me tweeting out all kinds of weird things on Twitter if you want. That's Gridiron Grubb.
Gotta love it. Thanks again, guys, and until next week, right?
Peace.
Absolutely.
Next week. Thanks, Ace, man.
Thank you, man. Big up. Thank you. Loved it, bros. Thank you.